My name is Sarah. I'm 31 years old now, and I've spent the last 3 years trying to understand how the people who raised me could look me in the eye and lie so completely. The worst part is that I almost let them get away with it. I probably would have if I hadn't found that notebook. Growing up, my family looked perfect on the surface. We were the kind of family where people said things like, "I wish my parents were like yours," or "You're so lucky to have such a close-knit family." My mom was a high school counselor, the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthdays and made elaborate lunches for school fundraisers. My dad was stable, a project manager at a construction firm, home by 6, present at all the important moments. And then there was my sister, Melissa. 3 years younger than me, golden-haired, beautiful in that effortless way some people are. She was the baby, the favorite. Not that my parents would ever say that, but we all knew it. I'm not saying I resented her for it. That would be too simple, and I'm trying to be honest here. Sometimes I did feel the weight of being the older one, the responsible one, the one who was expected to smooth things over and be the adult in the room. But mostly I loved her. She was my sister, and despite the age gap, we were close. She'd call me in college to complain about her roommate or ask me for advice on boys. I'd drive home from my apartment on weekends specifically to have lunch with her. I helped her through her first heartbreak when she was 16 and I was 19. This was our normal. This was what I believed was real. Things shifted so gradually that I didn't notice at first. It started around the time Melissa was 17. My mom and I had been close, really close. The kind of close where we'd text about stupid things throughout the day and make plans to meet for coffee. But suddenly, there were moments where she'd pause mid-sentence when I walked into a room. She'd exchange a look with my sister that I couldn't quite read. My dad stopped asking about my work in the detail-oriented way he always had. It was like they were all on the same frequency, and I was slowly being tuned out. I remember asking about it once. I was home for a weekend and I said something about Mom seeming distant. She immediately overcompensated, hugged me too long, asked me detailed questions about my job that felt performed rather than genuine. "You're imagining things," she said with a laugh. "I've just been stressed about work." I accepted this because that's what I did then. I accepted things. I made room for other people's narratives. The first real inconsistency was small. Melissa mentioned casually that she'd been helping a friend with something serious and had to keep it quiet. She was evasive about the details, and I didn't push. We were siblings but not tell each other everything siblings anymore. Then, a few days later, I found a charge on my parents' credit card statement. The bills came to my dad's email, and he sometimes forwarded them to me with a note asking my opinion on something. There was a payment to a law firm in the neighboring city, substantial, $6,000. I asked my dad about it directly. He told me it was for some property issue, something boring and not relevant to me. He said it with such certainty, such comfortable ease that I believed him immediately. Except I didn't, not entirely. Something in my stomach felt off. This is what I'm ashamed of now. I let it go. I didn't push because I didn't want the answer. I was building a life, had just gotten promoted, was dating someone seriously for the first time in a few years. It was easier to exist in the peaceful space my family had created, where nobody asked uncomfortable questions. About 8 months after I first noticed the shift, I was visiting home and staying in my old room while my boyfriend was away for work. I couldn't sleep one night, just that ambient kind of wakefulness where your mind won't shut off. It was around 2 in the morning. I went downstairs for water and noticed that my mom's office door was slightly ajar. The office was her private space, but she'd never explicitly told me not to go in there. I pushed the door open. I'm not going to pretend it was accidental. On some level I was looking for something, I just didn't know what. Her desk was organized in that way my mom's spaces always were, everything categorized, labeled, filed. But there was a notebook on top, leather-bound, kind of fancy. It was out of place, which is probably why my eye caught on it. I sat at her desk and opened it. The notebook was my mom's journal, not a diary exactly, but a record of thoughts and observations. As I read, my hands started shaking. The entries were about Melissa, dates, times, descriptions of conversations, concerns about Melissa's behavior, about something she'd done, about keeping it quiet because she's young, and one mistake shouldn't define her entire life, and we're handling it. I flipped through the pages. The earliest entries were from about 18 months prior, right around when I'd first noticed the distance. My mom had written about the incident, always in vague terms but with a tone that suggested something serious. She'd written about hiring a lawyer, about making sure this doesn't follow her into college. about her and my dad deciding to shelter Sarah from this because she tends to worry and also because this isn't her burden to carry. There was an entire section about my dad's position at work and how they were grateful his boss is understanding about this, and that incident at the firm won't impact his career because we're being proactive. I remember standing up from the desk and feeling like I was outside my own body. The room tilted slightly. I put the notebook back exactly where I found it because some part of me was still trying to navigate this carefully, still trying not to make waves. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I lay in bed going through every interaction with my parents over the past year and a half, looking for moments that made sense now. Every time they'd said, "Don't worry about it," or "That's not your concern," or "We're handling it." Every time they'd included Melissa in conversations and then abruptly changed the subject when I came in. Every time I felt the ghost of their unified front. They had made a choice. They'd actively decided to lie to me, to treat me as someone who couldn't be trusted with the truth, to protect Melissa at the expense of our relationship. And I still didn't know what Melissa had actually done. The breakdown came a few days later, but not in the way you'd expect. I didn't yell or confront anyone. Instead, I went home and I stopped engaging. I was polite but distant. I didn't call my mom for coffee. I took longer to respond to texts. When they asked why I seemed off, I said work was stressful. They seemed almost relieved that I wasn't questioning them, like my withdrawal was actually preferable to the truth. What I did instead of confronting them was investigate. I was quiet about it, methodical. I called the law firm on the credit card statement and said I was inquiring about a case file. When they asked for more details, I said I thought my parents might have retained them. They couldn't discuss it, of course, but the woman on the phone's careful response told me they absolutely had. I searched my dad's desk when I visited again the following month and found emails about something called the expungement on a backup file. They were casual about it in email. My parents and some person named David Chen, who I guessed was their lawyer. There were references to keeping it out of the news and not letting this derail her future. I contacted an acquaintance who worked in the court system and asked her general questions about expungement laws and when they apply to minors. She explained that expungement typically happens after certain types of charges, often for juveniles. Charges could include anything from theft to assault to minor drug violations. I still didn't know specifically, but I was putting together a picture. The real breaking point came about 6 months after finding the journal. I was on the phone with my mom, and she was telling me about Melissa's new job, how well she was doing, how proud they were. My mom's voice was warm and animated in a way it hadn't been with me in a long time, and I just snapped. Not visibly, I stayed composed on the phone, but internally something in me just broke. I realized that my parents had made me complicit in a lie. Every time I stayed quiet, every time I didn't ask questions, I was participating in the cover-up. They had assumed I'd either figure it out eventually and forgive them, or that I'd never figure it out at all. They had decided I wasn't worth protecting. Instead, they'd protected Melissa and their reputation and their image. The turning point was really subtle. I stopped being angry at the betrayal, or rather, the anger became different. It became focused, clear. I realized I had power here. I knew something they were desperately keeping hidden, and I had spent months gathering information that would mean much more than one secret journal entry. I decided I wasn't going to let this define my life, but I also wasn't going to carry it alone anymore. I did something that surprises me even now when I think back on it. I didn't blow up their lives publicly. I didn't tell Melissa that I knew didn't go to her friends or my extended family. Instead, I invited my family to dinner at a restaurant. I made a reservation at a nice place downtown. I was very specific in my invitation, all 4 of us, no plus ones. That dinner was both the longest and shortest evening of my life. We ordered, we made small talk about things that didn't matter, and then I set my phone on the table. On the screen were screenshots, not of anything private but of public records, an expungement case, a charging document from 3 years ago. Everything happened when Melissa was 17. The charge was for armed robbery. My mom's face went white. My dad's jaw actually dropped. Melissa started crying before anyone even said anything. I explained calmly that I'd figured it out, that I'd spent months quietly confirming what I'd found in my mom's journal, and that I was no longer willing to participate in a lie that had fractured my relationship with my family. I said I understood that they were trying to protect Melissa, but that they'd done so by systematically lying to me, by making me the outsider. by treating me like I was someone who couldn't handle the truth or be trusted with it. What happened next surprised me. Melissa admitted to everything. The armed robbery charge was from when she was with a boyfriend, a bad one, abusive one, and she'd been coerced into being the lookout for a robbery at a convenience store. She was 17. She'd been terrified. She'd taken a plea deal expungement, and the charge had been handled as a juvenile matter. My parents had hired a lawyer. They'd protected her reputation. They'd never even considered that protecting her might mean protecting me from the deliberate deception. My mom cried. My dad was silent for a long time. Melissa apologized to me until I asked her to stop. "You weren't the one who lied to me," I told her, and I meant it. But here's where this story gets complicated. Here's where the twist comes in. After that dinner, things didn't resolve neatly. I didn't forgive everyone, and we didn't bond over honesty. Instead, my relationship with my family fractured more completely. My parents were defensive about their choice to lie. They argued that they were protecting me from information that would worry me, and that the important thing was that Melissa was okay now. They tried to reframe the lie as an act of love. I couldn't see it that way. To me, it was a choice to trust her with the truth more than they trusted me. But the twist, the thing that changed everything about how I understood this situation, came about a year later. My mom had a health scare. Nothing serious ultimately, but in that moment of uncertainty, we all came together. And in a quiet conversation with my dad, he finally told me why they'd really shut me out. It wasn't just about protecting Melissa. My dad told me that when the robbery happened, the police questioned him because Melissa's boyfriend worked in a warehouse my company contracts with. For a brief, terrifying moment, there was a possibility that my dad could have been implicated somehow, just by proximity. It was completely unfounded, but the fear had been real. My parents had made the decision to not tell me because they were genuinely afraid of what I might do, of how I might react, of whether I'd somehow make it worse by trying to help or trying to talk to people. They were wrong to make that choice, absolutely wrong, but the motivation wasn't quite what I'd built up in my head. It wasn't that they thought I was weak or stupid or unreliable. They'd been scared and they'd made a bad call. It didn't fix everything, but it changed something. I'm still in my late 20s and early 30s now. I see my family, but we're different. There's a cautiousness to it. I don't trust them the way I used to. I don't share everything with my mom anymore. But I understand them better, and I think they understand me too. They know now that I'm not the kind of person who can be protected by lies, that I'd rather know hard things than live in carefully constructed fiction. Melissa and I have actually gotten closer. Ironically, after all of this, we talk more honestly than we ever did when everything seemed normal. She's given me more details about what happened, about her relationship with that boyfriend, about how she got out. I've shared things with her too. We're sisters, and we're both navigating a relationship with our parents that has real cracks in it. The weirdest thing is that my life didn't blow up like I expected it to when I was so angry. I didn't lose my family. I just lost the illusion of who they were, and it turns out that the real versions of them, flawed, scared, sometimes wrong, are people I can actually relate to. But there's a part of me that will never completely forgive them. And I think they know that. My mom hasn't asked to be my confidant again, and I haven't offered. We're cordial, we're loving in limited ways. We're honest now, but we're not close. The thing about betrayal is that it teaches you something about power. It taught me that I have more power than I realized, that secrets are only as powerful as the silence around them. It taught me that I'm capable of patience and strategy and taking action on my own terms. And it taught me that sometimes the most important revenge isn't fire and drama. Sometimes it's just refusing to let someone else's version of reality be your reality anymore. Sometimes it's demanding the truth, not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself. I'm not healed from this. I don't think I will be completely. But I'm here, I'm clear-eyed, and I'm no longer waiting for someone else to tell me what I deserve to know. That's enough.